Hey,
No,
I'm so sorry.
don't worry, don't worry.
We're great technically.
Mary, tell me the situation a little bit of Ireland, because I heard you are cocooning. This
Yes.
was a new word for me. I didn't know. So tell me a little bit, how is your situation in Ireland and what does it mean to cocoon?
I suppose, first of all, I'm cocooning because I'm in the vulnerable category, because of an underlying medical condition. So I think I'll tell a little story to describe what it's like. I was in the US recently visiting my first grandchild, and over there we were moving around, we went shopping, we went to restaurants and whatever. And I arrived home on Friday the 13th, and it was like sort of arriving from abundance to Armageddon, in that the whole sort of feeling was, oh my God, there's something incredibly serious going on here. And I was perfectly aware of the coronavirus while I was in the US. But on the Monday before I came home, President Trump said, oh, from the steps of the White House that, 3 or 4 days and this will be gone. So I think that maybe his attitude had an impact on people in the US, but that's just, I may be totally wrong. But coming back here, it was straight away into cocoon mode. And it was hard sort of to get my head around it, to be honest, to actually take on board the seriousness of it. And I think that took me just a little while. When I say a couple of days or maybe even a week and a half or 2 weeks, like, was this really happening? Was this as serious as it was being portrayed? Did a lot of reading on it. And then began to think, look, at actually, as opposed to feeling sorry for myself that I couldn't go out my front door, I said, look, I have a house I can walk around in, and I have a garden that I can walk around in. And I was thinking then of Nelson Mandela and said, in a small cell, how did he keep his sanity? Because I have a bigger space, and I was beginning to wonder, was I losing mine? So there was this incredible contrast between a sort of freedom and abundance, and then when I came home, this sense of almost like things were coming in on top of me. But as I say, the more I sort of reflected on it, the more I said to myself, look, actually you're very lucky, you have choices. Maybe I can't go out my front door, but happiness comes from within, and it's up to me now to make the choices to be miserable or not to be miserable. And that, I think that took a while to land, to be perfectly honest, because I'm usually a very busy person. I'm out and about and things on and all of that. So that was, I suppose that was my first sort of, what will I say, it was my first sort of big revelation about, I've never felt that feeling of having my freedom taken from me before. And it sort of didn't feel good. But yet, when I knew why it was being done, that was a very different matter. I mean, unlike Nelson Mandela, who it was, for him, it was so unfair. For me, I have to say that I think that our government handled the situation incredibly well, in that they sort of took it by the scruff of the neck and were ahead in terms of what they wanted to do and how they were going to deal with it. They got their committees together, and every day they were giving us an update and a report. And I must say, for the first little while, I found that hugely helpful. I suppose I'm cocooned now for nearly the bones of 6 or 7 weeks, maybe. I'm losing track of time. But so for the first period of time, I was watching every news and listening to everything that I could hear. I've gotten to a stage now where I just decide I'm going to listen to one news per day. That's it. Get the update and then go do my own thing, whatever I want to do, or whatever, you know, make my own decisions about my day. So that's been an interesting one, in that I suppose I was away, I came back to sort of feeling that my freedom was taken from me. Then I sort of gingerly and gently eased out of that sense and said, no, look, I'm very happy that actually our government is looking after us, and they've worked extremely hard, I think, and diligently, and particularly in the circumstances, because we just had a general election. So essentially it is the government who were there before who are now organizing things. And one might say, well, look at, you know, why should they take it all so seriously? And it doesn't matter, because they're not maybe going to be in government, you know, in a short while. But they've been incredibly responsible, I think, in all of the decisions they've made.
I think your prime minister is a doctor as well, no?
He is a doctor, and actually I feel maybe because he's a doctor that he had a better take on viruses. I mean, what if I'm told a virus, I sort of say, okay, look at you, an antibiotic won't work, so just let it burn out of your system. But a virus like the coronavirus, he obviously had a full understanding where the average person wouldn't. And that, I think, definitely made a difference. Also, our Minister for Health, who's a very young guy, Simon Harris, I think he has had a medical condition himself. So he would have had a lot of exposure to hospitals and all of that. So I think they were a terrific combination, actually, for us, lucky us, as I would see it. So it's sort of an evolving story, really, in that I was allowed out of the cocoon, I think, on Wednesday. And there was some part of me that said, no, I don't have to be under starters orders at the door to go out. I'm actually going to wait until Thursday. So I think I'm playing little games with myself around it.
So the cocoon, does it mean that you can't go out and they have to deliver it to you, or what
Yes.
does it mean?
Yes, cocooning means that I cannot go outside my house and my front gate. So essentially I'm in, when I say I'm in all the time, I can go out into my garden, but I cannot go outside the front door. So actually my daughter Shelley has been coming up with food for me. Either she makes it or she goes to the supermarket. And I must say, on several occasions, she has been stopped and asked where she's going. And I'm pleased about that, as is she, because we feel that, look, everybody is taking this very seriously. And, you know, the more seriously it's taken, the better it is for us as an island nation, you know, that we try and get the coronavirus out of our country as soon as possible. And interestingly, there are islands on the west of Ireland called the Aran Islands, and they have nobody with the coronavirus on the island, on their islands. They're a group of 3 islands. And I suppose they're thinking they make all their money by virtue of the tourists that come and visit them. And so they're now trying to see, look at what can we do? We need the tourists, but we don't want the coronavirus. So that's the dilemma that they're trying to puzzle their way through at the minute. So the other thing, I suppose, is I'm cocooning on my own. I think it would, as I said to Shelley, my daughter, when she pops into me and we social distance and all of that, that it's actually lovely to see a human face. You know, although I can't touch her or give her a hug or anything like that, it's because I'm on my own all the time. It's sort of, it just said to me the importance of actually seeing somebody as opposed to just talking to them on the phone.
And if you go out, the other people, they can go out to the supermarket and things like this, suppose, no? It's like a restricted
I think
lockdown.
sorry, I think
But
the
it's
people,
restricted lockdown. So I suppose the other people, can go only to the supermarket and to the pharmacy and things like this.
yes. Well, I mean, quite a few people, sort of people that I would maybe play bridge with, and that they would be in the same boat as myself, and they have family members sort of looking after them food-wise, and that. Well, we are now the cocooners, as they call us, are now allowed out 5 kilometers radius of our house. So we're allowed to actually go out now, as of whenever it was, the day before yesterday, and we can walk 5 kilometers. I suppose when I thought about that, I said, and they've also very kindly put some of the public parks in Dublin, they've said that between 1:30 and 3:30 they're for cocooners only. That again, it's just a bit of thought has gone into it. I'm not that mad keen to go out, because you'll always get the odd person who is a bit of a maverick, and I don't want to be near that person, if particularly maybe people jogging or that sort of thing. It's just because we know so little about the virus at this point in time. If we knew a bit more, then at least we'd be on a surer footing. But I think, while I don't know, I'm going to be cautious. I said to Shelley the other day that I was trying to give her a sense, I suppose, of what it's like here, and what it's like to be cocooned and that. And I think bottom line is that really every day I have different thoughts on it. So every day it's an evolving scenario. And I do think that probably the shock I got when I came back from the US, and then the Irish Camino, if I can call it that, they were two significant things that they were significant, but they also had huge impact on my thinking. In fact, I'm reading a book at the moment called A Gift from the Sea by Lindbergh, and essentially it is dealing with this very topic that everything comes from within. And so I can choose to be miserable, or I can choose to be happy, or I can choose because it's coming from inside, not the outside. And if I have my friends whom I can talk to or whatever, well, look at, haven't I rather lucky in all the circumstances? And I suppose something that has, that was sort of landed with me as well, was that when I need a sense of purpose. And before this coronavirus hit, I had, at least myself and some members of my family were actually going to do the Camino in northern Spain. And we were, and I was in particular, I think everybody was very much looking forward to doing that. So now it wasn't going to happen. And so we were disappointed, obviously. But my sister-in-law had the great idea of saying, well, we can't do the Camino because we can't get there, but how about doing an Irish Camino? So let's say that we would all try and do 10,000 steps per day for 10 days. And initially I thought, oh, I don't think I'll join this, because how am I going to do 10,000 steps for 10 days? Where can I walk? And then I said, okay, I'll do it in the garden. Mm-hmm. I'll go out into the garden, and whatever many laps it takes, I'll go do it. So I have to say that those 10 days finished last Tuesday, and they were terrific in terms of the sense of purpose it gave. So every day, my sister-in-law would give us a shell if we did our 10,000 steps. And I wanted that shell. Now, But that probably says something about me and my determination or whatever, but it was great, and it meant 10 days of the time went by. As it happens, 14 of us did it. And I think we were all sort of, nobody wanted to let themselves down. So therefore, all 14 of us succeeded in completing our 100,000 steps. And somehow we're feeling very proud of that.
The Camino was a very good idea. You should do it. You know, all the world should go make this Camino. So how many kilometers was it in the end?
It was nearly 100 kilometers. So we did 10,000 steps each day, which was sort of round about, I think, maybe 8 or 9 kilometers. But inevitably, if we were to count our steps that we did over the entire day, it went up to the 10 kilometers nearly. So it was good.
You would get dressed and the boots on, and then you went to the garden, and then
absolutely put the boots on, and out I went to the garden, round and round and round and round. So it was like 45 times, 46 times. So that was a challenge initially. Because I wondered when my sister-in-law said, would I do it? Would I not? And I thought, no, it's a challenge. Let's go try it and see. So,
Mary, one question, because I was talking to someone from Northern Ireland. They have to take the UK path, no? And that island, for example, and they did, I think, early measurements and so on.
I think that I suppose for something like Brexit, there was conflict because they were coming from 2 different places. So Northern Ireland is governed by England, and we're independent. So down south. So I think that for this pandemic, there was a sense of trying to work together as an island. Now, it didn't happen straight away at the start, but now I believe there is a good relationship between the health department in Northern Ireland and the health department down here. I suppose it doesn't impact on me so much because I live in Dublin, but where it really significantly impacts is the people who live along the border, both north and south, because some people live in the south and work in the north, and likewise other people live in the north and work in the south. And that's, I think, where it's very, very difficult. So let's say for something like this pandemic, it was nice to see them attempting to work together. You know, I suppose they're politicians, and politicians are, you know, probably looking out, generally speaking, for maybe the next election and votes and all of that. But I certainly think with our government down here, that was not on their radar at all, as I would see it. What they wanted was that the least amount of people got this virus, and that the people who got it be looked after. For example, somebody very close to me, my own sister, I have one sister, and she got the virus. She's a frontline health worker, she's a nurse, and she was looked after incredibly well, in that her husband would be in a vulnerable category. And she literally was sent to a particular facility for 14 days until she was tested, and the test came back as negative. And she's still on COVID leave, but would hope to go back to work, I think maybe not this coming week, but the following week. But she would say that the facility she was sent to was highly organized, very, very, just the medics were very good, the administration was very good. I think the government took over a hotel just in the west of Dublin, and people from the hospital that she worked in, if they got COVID, they went to that hospital, or they went to that facility if they weren't too bad. Then if needs be, they would have been sent back to the hospital to ICU if they were that bad and needed to be intubated or whatever. So I suppose I've had a little insight into COVID from a patient's point of view, in terms of what the healthcare facility was like, but also what COVID itself is like. And my sister would be a very robust person. I'd say, when was she last sick? I can't even remember when she was last sick. It was cold or whatever. But she was exposed to it on a particular Friday, and 3 days later, on the Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on Monday, she went into work, not feeling 100%, but thinking there's no way that she had it. Her manager said, you're not looking too good, I'm going to send you home. Sent her home, and that night, that afternoon, that night, she said she's never been as sick as, she was just so sick. Yeah. Dreadfully.
Mary, one question. Do you were a model? Your daughter told me now, and then you were a teacher, and I think a psychotherapist. Are you working still on?
I just retired at Christmas time, actually.
Retired. So
yeah.
Do you think, so you don't have patience, but do you think what do you think, what is the most difficult thing just now for the people, psychological?
Well, I think
how can they get better, how can they beat with this emotion?
Well, I think what's very good is that in Ireland we have not been good at talking. We have been good at talking but not saying what we really feel. So we have a phrase here in Ireland: how are you? I'm grand. Grand encompasses, an awful lot. But what has been happening I have noticed now over the last 3 weeks or so on the media, that both radio and TV are bringing people on who are telling their story. And I think that has to be helping. I mean, I know, because some clients that I've had, I'm just finishing out with them now, even though I retired at Christmas time, that I think it's so important to talk. And as Irish people, we're not great at talking about feelings. We'll talk about the crack and anything else. I shouldn't say, do you know what I mean by crack? In Ireland, when it's having fun, they say, oh, you're having the crack. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean crack cocaine.
Okay.
You better edit that out. That just popped out. But I think it has to be very helpful. In fact, we have a show that's on once a week, a television show that's very popular. And in fact, just on Friday night, they did a whole segment on people talking. And we have a particular foundation here called the Pieta House. And it's for people who are maybe thinking of suicide, or the relations of people who have committed suicide. And so they actually had somebody from Pieta House on, in terms of somebody from administration, and they also had a person who had gone through the system there. And I suppose as a psychotherapist, I was delighted to see that, because I suppose I'm just repeating myself, that in terms of talking, we're great at talking in one way, but we're dreadful at talking about feelings.
Yeah. And the last question would be: what do you see this in this situation? Do you see something positive or constructive coming out of this situation?
Yes, I do. And I do, sort of from a personal point of view and from a sort of a country point of view. So personally, I think when we did our Irish Camino, there was a great sense of we were all in this together. We all encouraged each other. Everybody was motivating everybody else. And I think that has transported into the bigger community, into the wider community, in that I think people are just being kind. I know I get tablets every second week and from the chemist. And when I phoned my chemist, she said, would you like them delivered? And I said, well, that would be wonderful, because it would save my daughter going to pick them up. And so the person who delivered the tablets was somebody who offered his services to do this job. So I think there are thousands of little incidences like that are going on that we won't hear about maybe until all of this is over, which of course is another question, because I think it'll be a long time before the world is not going to be the same as it was before, and how are we going to adapt? But that's a whole other thing at the minute. What I'm not planning on addressing it. I'm sort of planning on taking it day by day at this stage.
So thank you very much, and
you're very welcome.
Stay healthy.
I will. I'll try. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.